Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a heroin addict, recovering heroin addict.
Covering it.
Um, they actually almost got divorced. I almost divorced them because of asking my mom for everything I could get out of her. My mom would find drugs and paraphernalia all the time, and she would always cry. She used to always tell me that every day she thought she was gonna wake up and would get a phone call that I would be dead somewhere. My dad wouldn't talk to me. My brother didn't like me. Friends is the biggest influence when it comes to drug use. So I started smoking pot with them every day, and then I had some other friends that smoked pot as well, and I started hanging out with them and drinking and smoking pot, and then eventually cocaine came into the picture when it was right before I turned 17. Cocaine came into the picture, and I went nuts on that stuff. I started doing it every day, doing coke every day, and I started stealing, stole a lot of stuff. I would steal anything I could get my hands on that was worth anything. And then at some point when I was 17, probably like 6 or 8 months after I started doing cocaine, I found prescription pills, Oxycontin and hydrocodone, Vicodin, Lortab, all that. Oxycontin was the main one though. So it started out I would do like 10 milligrams, so it was half a 20 milligram pill, and then I was doing 20 milligrams, getting 40 milligram Oxycontin, and I would do half of those, and then it became whole 40s, and then it became, not too long after that, it was 80 milligram Oxycontin, and it progressed to the point where I was doing 5 80 milligram Oxycontins per day, and I was paying $70 a piece for them. So what's that? That's $350 a day on Oxycontin. So at that point, I was 18 years old. I was working for my father doing construction, and within 3 weeks, I I was writing fake checks out to myself from my dad's business account, and within 3 weeks to a month, I emptied out his entire business account. It was like $8 or $10,000 within with 21 checks within a month, and emptied his whole bank account. And that was the first time my parents found out I was on drugs. And after that, or right when that happened, they sent me to rehab. I went to rehab for 17 days in August of 2009. I got out of there. I was clean for probably, I don't know, a month or two. And then I started shooting heroin.
What made you go to heroin?
It was way cheaper than pills. Prescription pills are way more expensive than them. I actually tried heroin for the first time when I was 17. I snorted it one time with a friend of mine. Every time I've progressed to a new drug, it's always been one of my friends had it. That's why I say friends are the biggest influence. I was shooting heroin every day, multiple times a day. Probably, I don't know, between 4 and 10 times a day. No matter how much I bought, whether it was one little shot to 2 grams, I always did it in one day. I've been struggling with that, with heroin ever since. I've done little bits of cocaine here and there. I've smoked crack while I was doing all that, and I've been to rehab 6 times. Not one time ever was rehab successful for me, not once.
So what was successful?
The only way a heroin addict is going to stop using is if they want it more than anything else in the world. They're not going to do it for anybody else. They have to do it for themselves to make themselves better. My stealing was the worst because I basically ruined them by emptying out my dad's bank account. That time they didn't press charges on me because I don't know, it was the first time. And I stole $1,400 from them, bought an ounce of coke, and did it all in 2 days. The hardest part about, you said, stopping drug use, like recovering or whatever,
Yeah.
it's the friends. Staying away from them, no matter where you go. I've done drugs with so many people, no matter where I go, I always run into them, always. Most of the time it's probably at probation or pre-trial or my methadone clinic,
Mm-hmm.
but also any stores or gas stations or anything, they're always around. You can never get away from them. You can never get away from drugs. It's always going to be there. But the friends is the acquaintances, I should say. Like I said, a drug addict's not going to stop unless they completely want to. And my parents and my family are very supportive. They support everything I do. Working, trying to get a job. I'm on methadone now, which is a opiate blocker to keep you from wanting to get high or even being able to get high. When the recession hit, we were sitting on 7 properties. My parents couldn't sell any of them. This whole time, we're stealing all my dad's tools and all the cash and any money I could get my hands on. The whole time during this recession, I was stealing everything I could get my hands on. Basically all from my parents. I really wasn't stealing from anybody else. So eventually they had to file for bankruptcy, and I played a big part in that. When you're addicted to heroin, all you think about heroin and how to get money for it. That's all you think about. 24/7, you dream about it. That's what you're thinking about when you wake up. That's what you're thinking about when you go to sleep.